welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and we have an Overreaction Monday after the Texans preseason game against the New York Giants. I'll get into all the hottest topics that everybody around Texans fans, everybody at home, they want to know the answers to these questions. I'll give you my take on the hottest rumors going on around the Houston Texans. But before we get started, we're so close. I want to thank everybody who joined us for that preseason game. We were live here on the channel. We are 53 subscribers away from 16,000. Come on, let's get there. Let's get to 16K on the channel. Thank you to everyone who's already hit that sub button or who's just watching today's video and clicking in. I appreciate you all for joining me on today's show. This is the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube, so let's keep on climbing. Let's keep on going. Go down there and hit that sub button. Now, if this is your first time watching the show, I'm going to kind of break down the latest rumors using my Toro heads meter. So basically, if I give it one Toro head, small shred of truth, like 25% chance of it happening. 2 heads, people are talking about a 50% chance. 3 heads, pretty likely. I think it's like a 75% chance of happening. 4 heads, I mean, H-Town, hold it down. It's happening. Or I could give something a fake news, which means no chance it's going down. Now, let's get into the first story on today's show. Should the Texans move on from Dameon Pierce? And if you were on Texans Twitter this weekend, it was a hotbed of people saying Dameon Pierce is out for the Texans. The Texans need to trade him. They should just outright cut him. Well, before I give you my take, I want to hear from you. Should the Texans trade Dameon Pierce? Because I don't think they'll go ahead and cut him. I think if worse comes to worse, I think they'll end up trying to trade Dameon Pierce for a 6th or 7th round pick, in my opinion. But what say you? Should the Texans, if they're offered a 6th round pick, 7th round pick, should they trade Dameon Pierce? Let me know your thoughts down below. Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comment section. I'm going to give it 2 Toro heads. People are talking. I mean, I still like Dameon Pierce. I think he can be a good running back. But my biggest question with Pierce is, does he fit in this offense that Bobby Slowik wants to run? It doesn't seem that way throughout all of last season. And then, you know, training camp, he had a lot of good news and notes around him. But in the preseason games, really haven't seen a lot of Dameon Pierce. Obviously, we know the starting running back we traded for him this offseason. His name is Joe Mixon. I mean, he was, I think, good to go. If it was a regular season game, I think he would have ended up playing up against the New York Giants. But in a preseason game, coaching staff was like, no, we're good. We don't really need to see him. And unfortunately for Dameon Pierce, every other running back on the roster seemed to absolutely ball out up against the New York Giants. I mean, Cam Akers looked really good. J.J. Taylor, before having to exit the game for concussion protocol, looked fantastic. Rookie Jawhar Jordan has been looking really good. He looked really good, especially catching the ball out of the backfield up against the Giants. Ogunbowale has had some spots where he looked good. And then British Brooks finally looked really good up against the New York Giants, scoring 2 touchdowns in that game. He looked fantastic. And I don't know how many running backs the Texans keep on this roster, but it's getting really hard to narrow it down to make the final 53 man. I mean, it's going to be down to the wire. They're going to be, really picking little things, nitpicking at these guys to see who the Texans end up keeping on this team because, I mean, you have Joe Mixon. I think you have Cam Akers now. Dameon Pierce, maybe? I mean, you have Ogunbowale, who's been on the squad for the past couple of years. He brings a lot for you in special teams. So does J.J. Taylor. I think he's a good special teamer and a good, scat back, 3rd down back. You drafted Jawhar Jordan in the 6th round, and then British Brooks, the UDFA out of North Carolina, he's looking really good as well. So how many do they keep? I'm not sure. I mean, I think anywhere from 3, 4, maybe 5. I don't know. But it's going to be really hard for Nick Caserio, for DeMeco Ryans to kind of narrow this, running back room down. And that's why I'm like, Dameon Pierce, this is going to be a huge week for him. Huge week for Dameon Pierce if he wants to make a difference on this team for this season. Now, coming up, we have 2 more rumors we need to discuss around my man Derek Stingley Jr. and John Metchie. We'll get to those in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Game Time. Where are my baseball fans at? The Astros, they're currently fighting for that playoff position, and the easiest way to score last-second tickets for Astros games, sporting events, concerts, comedy shows is with our sponsor, Game Time. You can get deals on last-second tickets and even see your seat view before you buy them. All-in prices show you what you pay without hidden fees or expenses, and Game Time has zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, for an average savings of 18%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Derek Stingley, will he be an all-pro player this year? Will he be an all-pro guy? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this is very likely. I'm giving it 3 Toro heads. The only reason I'm not giving it 4 is because of the injury history with Derek Stingley. But when it comes to his play on the field and how he looks for this Texans defense, I would say there's a really good chance that this young man is able to do something for this team. I mean, he had a 97.5 PFF grade up against the New York Giants. And if you have watched this show, if you know anything about PFF, they don't just throw around 97s a lot. A lot of these guys, a 75 is a good grade from PFF. To get a 97.5, that means he was basically flawless up against the New York Giants. And if you watch him play, obviously he should have had an interception on the very first play of the game. But then he made up for it later on, stealing this ball from Jalen Hyatt for another interception for the Texans on this game. I mean, dude was an absolute beast. He was on that man like white on rice. He was insane up against the New York Giants. And I think that's just a tidbit, a little teaser, a little appetizer, you know, of what is to come for Derek Stingley for this season. And I've been singing Stingley's praises all the way going into last season, because if you really look at the numbers between him and Sauce Gardner, who was taken one spot behind him in the draft, I mean, they're pretty comparable. Last year, 12 PBUs to 11 for Sauce Gardner, 5 interceptions to 0, a completion percentage when targeted advantage Derek Stingley, 51 to 57.4, and a quarterback rating when targeted of 48.1 to 81.2, advantage once again Derek Stingley. So I really do think he can prove a lot of people wrong, and a lot of people think, oh, he's a good corner, like he's one of the better corners in the league. No, I think Derek Stingley can be a top corner in this league, a top 3, a top 5, I mean a top 1. He can be the best corner in the league this season. And if you agree with me, if you think selecting Stingley over Sauce was the right pick, because the Texans got a lot of flack for that after Sauce Gardner's rookie season and Stingley was injured. I mean, I saw it all over Twitter, all over social media, all the big publications, ESPN, Bleacher Report. The Texans made a huge mistake. They drafted Stingley over Gardner. How could they do that? Now, coming into this season, looks like they might have made the right choice, and I think they did. If you agree with me, go down and hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video, because I think Stingley deserves his flowers, and he's going to prove to everybody this season why the Texans made the right pick. Lastly, the Texans, should they trade John Metchie? I mean, he got his first touchdown since 2021. He's been looking really good in training camp preseason so far. Should they just go ahead and trade him? Fake news. Fake news. Not happening. Texans are not getting rid of John Metchie. I don't care what Eagles beat reporters have to say. I don't care what other people around the league are thinking of John Metchie. The Texans are not trading this man. I'm telling you right now, he looked really good up against the New York Giants. And I mean, on a more baseline level, talking about John Metchie and this roster and this team, he means so much to this squad and to the players around him. You talk about CJ Stroud, the leader of your team, the El Capitan, the franchise quarterback, number 1, Mr. CJ Stroud. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, he loves him some John Metchie. And if your quarterback, if your franchise guy loves a wide receiver like that, then why would you rock the boat and trade him and get what? Maybe like a 4th or 5th round pick in next year's draft, maybe a 3rd round pick in 2026? Why rock the boat and do that? I think John Metchie has a spot on this roster, and he's been really proving himself, being able to, come back from leukemia, being able to survive that, being able to beat that, and really show his stuff on the field and prove why he was a second-round pick out of Alabama years ago. I really think that John Metchie has proven enough, and I think he's going to have a spot on this team. When it comes to the last wide receiver spot, though, I think these guys are the ones that are really fighting for that last position. Ben Skoranek, Robert Woods, which I know a lot of you laugh at this, but Robert Woods is still a good veteran in this league. And if the Texans don't trade him, if they end up cutting Robert Woods, I don't think he makes it past waivers. I think he gets claimed by another wide receiver needy team because he's still good. I know we laugh like, oh, Robert Woods, not a good player. Yes, he's not a wide receiver 1, not a wide receiver 2. But as like a wide receiver 4, a wide receiver 5, somebody who needs to sub in and maybe help out a wide receiver core, he's a lot better than a lot of other guys in this league who are still on rosters. So don't be surprised if the Texans maybe trade Robert Woods for a 7th-round pick right before roster cutdown day. Xavier Hutchinson been playing really good, but we've seen it before. Guys who show out in the preseason, guys who are really good, and then just don't end up making the roster at the very end, right as roster cutdown day comes. Xavier Hutchinson could be a guy like that. I think he's played enough. I think he's played really good, but he could still be fighting for that roster spot, and same with Steven Sims. He's a really good return man, really good in the receiving game as well as a low-key like wide receiver 4, 5, or 6, but this wide receiver room is stacked, so you never know which one of those guys could end up being cut or traded as we get closer to roster cutdown day. But John Metchie, I think he's good. I don't think he's being traded from the Houston Texans. Now, if you want more Texans updates, more up-to-date news around the Houston Texans, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. I also made a new Texans Today IG page, so if you want the latest around the team, if you want to follow me on IG, do so at Texans Today CS. I'll put that link in the comment section and description of today's video. And as always, make sure you hit that sub button. We're so close to 16,000 subscribers. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. So if you like what you saw, if you were entertained by our video today, we're doing this all year long. So make sure you go down and hit that sub button.